Everyone, we are live. Hopefully, this mic is working. We'll see. I don't know. As you can see, we're not in the coffee shop today. Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because I couldn't get Zoom to work. So that's why we're rocking with the natural look. I guess this is my home office slash guest bedroom. Sadly, I guess if you have a bed in your office, it does not count as a tax write off, so I will be throwing that out the window after this. But today, Sunday, here we are. Big news out of Mesa County this week. We recently got the details on the case of Deputy Zwinck. Zwinck is a member of the Mesa County Sheriff's Office. He is a deputy there, and he has allegedly, and I'm going to be using allegedly a lot today because this is a legal case, so I want to, let the chips fall where they may, but allegedly the deputy has been cooperating with ICE, and that is the Colorado, or not Colorado, sorry, it's Immigration Customs Enforcement. ICE has been around for a long time, but not forever. So it's not something that is just inherent to our state and nation here. It's something that has been used to, as of late, really harm communities, sadly. And that's not really alleged, that's just the truth. Many agents wear face coverings. You have to ask yourself, why are they hiding their faces? It's because, in my personal opinion, they know what they're doing is wrong, and they don't want to be known. And that's a really scary thing. It's a very fascist, authoritarian type of thing that we've seen in history. In obviously the biggest example of Germany, but also in the former Soviet Union, in really name an authoritarian nation, and you're going to have a secret police or a group working really without much oversight or control. As we were talking with Jacob Richards last week, this ICE issue has been going on for a long time under multiple administrations, including, President Obama. You might not know this, but the current director of ICE, Tom Homan, was also the ICE director under President Obama in his last 2 years. Many refer to President Obama as the deporter in chief, as he has one of the highest rates of deportation of any president in modern history. Although President Trump is, I'm sure, following closely. There's one thing that I heard about with the ICE operations is that arrests are up, but deportations are about the same. This system appreciates and wants, the system of the United States wants detentions. They want to put people in prison and jail because then they can access their labor and they can use it for free. And as we know, the 15th Amendment, it outlaws, was it 14th or 15th? The end of Civil War amendments. Let me look it up. And this is what we're going to do today. We're going to be looking up some stuff together. Allows for slavery. Sorry, 13. Thank you very much. Formally abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime. And that's what it's being used for. It's we literally have prisons and jails on former plantations, and it just continues. And what we're seeing here is this roundup and destruction of families to cause fear, and also to promote his campaign of cleaning up the United States, his words. And it's really going after families, and it's putting people into these facilities where they can then use their labor. They will use their labor for free in slave conditions. And we see places like Alligator Alcatraz, where literally people won't even staff it because it's so disgusting. It's filled with mosquitoes. It gets flooded like weekly, and they have to take them out and bring them back, and it's the most inefficient, hundred of millions of dollars to a facility just to cause pain and fear. And we're in a bad spot. We're in a very bad spot. And I'm not just saying this is all happening under and because of the Trump administration. It is a big part of it. However, this is something that has been going on through multiple generations and multiple iterations and presidencies. Because ICE is still around and has been funded by Biden. Biden was deportating a lot of people too. It's just really these hard arrests, and the scary part of the face coverings. It's meant to cause fear, and that's and it's scary. It does cause fear. So, Mesa County, we have been in the news because of a deputy, Zwinck, who is or was found working with ICE through the Signal chat, and he pulled over a young lady from Utah who is a student, a nursing student out of Utah, and was going to go visit a friend in Denver. And let's go ahead and we're going to read from the complaint filed by Attorney General Phil Weiser. You can find this pretty easily online. I was sent, thank you, Dennis Simpson had pulled it to share out with people. That's former city council member, and he's a good guy. He really cares about following the law, and this is where the law is broken down. So let's talk about it. These are Weiser's words, and so I'll just read from there. Again, this is an ongoing case. I'm not a lawyer. I will just be quoting from these and giving my own personal takes within it. So I just highlighted a few sections, but within the introduction, it talks about, enforcing federal immigration laws can undermine the public trust and deter individuals from accessing state services, as well as divert state law enforcement resources for their intended purposes. So there was a law passed in Colorado to not cooperate with ICE in regards to deportations and civil offenses. So there's at least two that I know of. You can have civil and criminal offenses when it comes to immigration. And for this case of overstaying a visa, it is a civil violation, much like a speeding ticket is a civil violation. So we don't want our resources as a state, our tax dollars, going to something that is the jurisdiction of the federal government. We don't want to be chasing folks that are effectively have speeding tickets and trying to track them down. Yes, is it a violation? Sure, but that's within the federal code, not ours. And what it does is it pushes people more underground, increasing the potential of crime because they're not reporting crimes that are committed against them, and is just even more dangerous. And again, going back to labor principles, this is a nice thing for employers, for folks that are hiring undocumented people. They like to have these crackdowns. No, they don't want them too much because then it interferes with their business. But if you can have an employee that you can pay pennies on the dollar, and then if they start to act up or maybe question, their standing within whatever, business the person owns that they are working for, they can just say, well, we're going to call ICE. We're going to call immigration on you. So you better stop trying to organize. You better stop asking about more pay. And if they have no recourse, the abuse continues. And that's a crime too. That's a crime right there. It's wage theft. It's violations of workplace safety all across the board. So back to Zwinck, and he pulled over this student, 19-year-old, for driving too close to a semi truck. Although he just let her off with a warning. But before he did that, he was sending signal, so chat messages, to a group that had members of ICE within it, or at least HSI, standing for. Hold on, let me write this one out. I want to get my acronyms right, since I said the 14th Amendment said the 13th. So let's get everything right here. HSI, Homeland Security Investigations. There we go. All right, so it was all part of this. He was signaling, he was chatting away. Oh, I think I found, an undocumented immigrant. He took a picture of her license, and then, brought her into the vehicle, and was just like talking with her and just waiting for it again to get back to him about her status. And they said, really that she had no criminal record, and that for the most part, here we go. So not seeing a criminal record, but I believe she has immigration status. We are confirming. So this was 4 minutes after Deputy Zwinck in the signal chat had sent the ID, and this was the ICE officer responding to her, or to him. And then they bring her into the car, talk with it more, and just waits for ICE to show up. He eventually lets her go with the warning and sends her down the road, gives the description to ICE of the vehicle, and they eventually pull her over, detain her, and send her to Aurora, the detention facility there, where she spent, I believe, 3 days, and was miserable 3 days. 3 days that she did not need to spend there, because she was not, this was a civil violation. Again, this was an overstay of a visa. And again, and even they know it. This was the chat that was sent to Deputy Zwinck, a message stating Brazilian national, visa overstay, no crime, no financials, or HSI cases. Again, that's the Homeland Security Investigation. So this is a 19-year-old, like any other 19-year-old. They were brought here, I don't know, years ago when she was, I think, 7. And yeah, had lived in Utah for approximately 12 years. She was telling Zwinck this, and then he was like, oh, I think I hear an accent. There doesn't sound to be much of an accent, because he knows her status, and he is just allegedly is tricking her to delay time. And this is a great opportunity to remind everybody that always ask any peace officer, whether police or sheriff, if you're being held, am I being detained? Am I being detained? Ask that, because then he would have had to have charged her with something. It didn't seem like he was interested in charging her with anything. And so the answer would have been no. And you say, thank you, I am leaving. And then you leave. And you drive on your way. Or may I leave? Ask to leave. And they cannot, using the law, they cannot keep you if they are not detaining you. So the sad thing is, Deputy Zwinck, all of this is allegedly brutal and wrong and illegal, according to the Attorney General. He, after being told, this is part of the quote here, after being told that the individual had overstayed a visa and that the federal immigration officers would want him, so he checked in, did y'all get her? And they're like, yeah, and also we'd want you. Deputy Zwinck responded, oh my gosh, we better get some B-wording Christmas baskets from you guys. So that indicates several people allegedly violating this law. And it goes on to state, that they're going to continue to, investigate, pinpoints, again, no criminal history for the driver, and this suit could end up with a maximum of $50,000. And you can read all this information. I'll put it into the description, but overall, an alleged violation of section 24-111 and then Senate Bill 21-131 as well. So this was massive violation within Mesa County, allegedly, by working with ICE, and is endangering and puts in even more pressure on our communities, our immigrant communities, to go even further underground, which again is the opposite of what you want to do if you want to decrease crime. If people are hiding and people are not reporting things, and if people are being abused, they are less likely to go forward to law enforcement to let them know that laws are being broken. And it's backwards, and that's the reason why we do not want local entities for civil violations, civil immigrant violations, immigration violations, to be enforced. If it's criminal, that's a different story. But again, this cooperation is against our ones locally. It puts us in danger because it's going to allow for more crime to flourish because people aren't willing to speak up for their own safety. So we're going to dive in here to the statement from I'm just going to make sure I get the right name. All right, Todd Rowell, the Mesa County Sheriff. And he put out his statement not too long ago, earlier this week. So I'm just going to read some excerpts from it. But as Mesa County Sheriff, I take full responsibility for this incident. The Mesa County Sheriff's Office has well-established practices limiting our involvement in immigration enforcement. That comes into play in a second. Colorado Senate Bill 25276, which has been signed into law 13 days prior to this stop. As sheriff, I take seriously our duty to ensure deputies remain informed of legal changes impacting our operations. So at first, we have a well-established practice of limiting our involvement with immigration enforcement, followed by a complaint of this law was only signed in for 13 days. A law is a law. For 1 day or for 10,000 days, it's still the law. And it is up to, obviously, the sheriff to inform his people. And if this was my job, I would want to make sure I am as aware as possible of the laws. If you work in the legal system, you need to be aware of what you're doing. And allegedly he was. Very much so. Although discussions were had with HSI supervisions in months preceding this incident to ensure my deputies would not be involved with immigration enforcement, so he knew, this is our sheriff knowing, months preceding this incident, that deputies should not, because he's asking about this, my deputies would not be involved in immigration enforcement. Obviously, it was immigration enforcement. He checked her status. He sent in a picture of the driver's license to this chat, asking particularly, or trying to find out, her status. So he obviously failed in the preceding months to ensure that those deputies would not be involved in immigration enforcement. He does mention that Attorney General Weiser refused to speak with me, but I was able to meet with members of his staff on June 24. I've been transparent with the Attorney General's office, other than not allowing the Attorney General's office to interview my deputies during the pendency of our administrative review. I have fully cooperated with all others' requests. I would be very interested if that interview option comes for Zwinck and the Attorney General's office. Where it gets kind of interesting is last few paragraphs here. I asked the Attorney General Weiser apply the law equally to all law enforcement and government officials instead of making Deputy Zwinck an example. This would include filing lawsuits and hosting press conferences for each state and local law enforcement officers in the group chat and other government officials who have violated SB 21-131 and SB 25-276. Alternatively, I request the Attorney General dismiss the lawsuit against Deputy Zwinck to allow internal discipline and training to take place as law enforcement across Colorado adjust to SB 25-276. That's, yeah, go for it. I mean, we need to investigate those that are breaking the law, and especially those that are charged with keeping the law from breaking the law. Because, as we've stated, to this point, it increases the danger here locally. And I don't want that, and you don't want that. These are our neighbors. And although they might be undocumented, or even have documentation apparently, they are our neighbors. They are people that live here with us, and they should have access to local law enforcement like we do, if the point of local law enforcement is indeed to protect people and protect our community. This does not do that. What was interesting was, and he's going to get some pushback on this, was Rowell was. Talks about the group chat clearly shows Colorado State Patrol troopers who are prohibited from sharing personal identifying information with ICE under the laws, blah, 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 and other local law enforcement subject to the same law, engaging in conduct similar to Deputy Zwinck's. This pointed out to the Attorney General's office with no substantive response provided. Likewise, the same day, Attorney General Weiser announced his lawsuit targeting Deputy Zwinck. The Denver Post reported that the governor has violated SB 21-131 on 4 separate occasions, providing personal identifying information to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I don't know what that involves, but I agree that should be investigated. Why not? And also the Colorado State Patrol troopers, yep, and any other local entity, yep. If you broke the law, you should be investigated for it. And the thing that made me laugh and cry a little bit was the bottom portion here, one of the last paragraphs he puts in. As it stands, the lawsuit filed by Attorney General's office sends a demoralizing message to law enforcement officers across Colorado that the law may be wielded selectively and publicly for maximum political effect rather than applied fairly and consistently. This is literally, I mean, you can call the sheriff woke for this, because this is the thing that the left has constantly upheld, that the law is wielded selectively 100%. Like, look literally at what's going on right now with Epstein and the selectivity of how that case is being prosecuted. And you can look at cases across the board of the rich and powerful being selectively prosecuted and publicly for maximum political effect. And it's across the board. And the question that, or the real obvious point I try and bring up with folks when it talks about our legal system and law enforcement in general, is that black men make up 40% of the U.S. prison population in male prisons, and only 10% of the U.S. population. So, why is that? That's the question. I think it's because we have structural issues in our legal system that are wielded selectively and publicly for maximum political effect. It's racism inherently in our system, which ties back to the beginning of this podcast today, talking about how our detention facilities have really just turned into, many of them, I think in Colorado it is outlawed to have slave labor within our state system, even for those that are receiving punishment for their crime. But it all goes back to labor and power and control and what's been used and how it's being used right now. So that was really where we're at right now. The investigation is underway. I agree with our sheriff that we should expand this investigation for the multitude, including the governor's office, of issues we've seen with cooperation with federal immigration. Again, I'll look through the law, but there is a difference between civil and criminal when it comes to immigration. And for the driver coming from Utah, I'm glad she received an apology. It is certainly an admission of guilt, in my opinion, and could be acted upon from there. But it is important to recognize failures and to note them. I'll read the last bit here that just kind of covers what happened to those deputies. So Deputy Alexander Zwinck has been placed on 3 weeks or 120 hours of unpaid administrative leave and will be removed from his current assignment on the Western Colorado Task Force and reassigned to patrol. I wonder if he'll join ICE. I hear they're hiring and get a $50,000 signing bonus or something like that. Deputy Eric Olson has been placed on 2 weeks or 80 hours of unpaid administrative leave and will be removed from his current assignment on Western Colorado Task Force and reassigned to patrol. Sergeant Joe Lemoyne has been suspended without pay for 2 days or 16 hours. Lieutenant David Holdren has received a letter of reprimand to be placed permanently in his personal profile. Curtis Brammer has been provided documented counseling. I wonder if the sheriff can punish himself and put it in his own record. I don't know. But there we are. A major issue. And it's going to get worse. It's going to be bad. And, there's a lot of concerns with families in our community, and I don't blame them. And this is a concern for everyone. And one thing I want to finish up with today is a very powerful poem that really illustrates, how big of a deal this is. And you probably have heard of it. Maybe you haven't. Martin, my brother, he can speak German. I cannot, but it's Martin Niemöller. Sorry. Or that was spot on, maybe. But here it is. This is actually right outside the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and is found in other locations, obviously, but here we go. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So he was a prominent German pastor, and he was eventually sent to a concentration camp. And when we see things deteriorating around us, even if it doesn't affect you, I have obviously half of my family is like 5 or 6 or 7 generations in the U.S. I'm very white, and I have blue eyes and blonde hair. So will there be some protections? Sure. Does putting myself out here on this at a spotlight? Yes. But that's why you have to speak out. All of us have to speak out. You say, it might not affect me. I'll stay behind the doors. I'll stay quiet. One day it will. One day it will, unless we stop it early. And I very much, very much appreciate the Attorney General Phil Weiser for investigating this alleged crime or violation by the Mesa County Sheriff's Department. And I hope for a thorough and fair investigation that results in how it will. But overall, I think it's a big reminder and important to all of us to make sure that we speak out, make sure that we defend each other as our neighbors, and make sure that the law is followed. Appreciate you all. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week.